Once upon a time, there was a man who had 2 wives. One day, his first wife became gravely ill. As she lay in her bed, she called her 2 children to her side. With a weak voice, she said, "My dear children, soon I will be gone from this world, but I have one last wish. Promise me you will look after your father and your stepmother when I am no longer here." The children, hearts heavy with sorrow, nodded. "We promise, Mother," they said, but they wondered what would become of their family once she was gone. Would their father's second wife treat them as her own, or would the bond between them be tested by the passing of their mother? The mother smiled faintly, her eyes glistening with love and concern for her children. "You must also remember, dear ones," she whispered, "that family is not just defined by blood, but by kindness and understanding. Your father is a good man, but he will need your guidance. Be patient with your stepmother, for she, too, will carry burdens of her own." The children, though young, nodded solemnly, grasping her words tightly. They stayed by her side until the very end, offering comfort and love. Soon, their mother passed away, leaving a deep silence in the home. The days that followed were filled with grief, but life had to go on. The man, devastated by the loss of his first wife, turned to his second wife for support. The children, now left with a new reality, had to face the delicate balance between honoring their late mother's wishes and navigating their relationship with their stepmother. As time passed, the second wife showed kindness toward the children, though the wounds of loss were not so easily healed. The children slowly began to understand the complexities of family dynamics, and the love their mother had spoken of became their guiding light. Yet, challenges arose, moments of jealousy, misunderstanding, and strained loyalty, but they carried their mother's final words with them. Patience and kindness could turn even the most difficult relationships into something beautiful. As the years passed, the children grew wiser, but the tension between their stepmother and them never fully faded. The stepmother, despite her initial kindness, had her own secrets. One evening, as the children sat by the fire, they overheard her talking to a stranger in hushed tones. "One day, the children will leave," she said, "and then the house and everything in it will be mine." The children, startled by the words, exchanged uneasy glances. What did this mean for their future? They had been so focused on honoring their mother's wishes that they hadn't considered what their stepmother might want for herself. The next day, they approached their father, their hearts heavy with the weight of their discovery. "Father, we overheard something last night, something that made us worried about the future." Their father looked troubled, but motioned for them to continue. "She said that one day, the house and everything would be hers." "Without us," one of the children spoke up, barely able to hide the fear in their voice. The man's face fell. "I never wanted you to feel displaced, my dear children. I had no idea of what she might be planning." The stepmother, realizing that the children knew of her plans, confronted them later that day. Her eyes were sharp, but there was a hint of desperation behind her words. "What you overheard was not meant for your ears. You must understand, I have done all I can to make this home feel like a family, but it will never be the same without your mother. I don't know how to live without her either." In that moment, the children saw her in a new light. They realized that, like them, she had lost something precious and was simply trying to protect herself from more pain. They decided to give her the benefit of the doubt, remembering their mother's words about patience and understanding. From then on, the relationship between the children and their stepmother shifted. The air between them wasn't always easy, but with time, they began to share moments of genuine connection. The stepmother, too, learned that family could be built on shared experiences, not just inheritance. And so, the family learned the true meaning of togetherness, not by avoiding conflict, but by confronting it with honesty, forgiveness, and love. The years rolled on, and though peace had begun to settle, the weight of the past never truly left the family. One winter, the father fell ill, much like his first wife had. He grew weak, unable to manage the farm, and it became clear that his days were numbered. The children, now young adults, took it upon themselves to care for him. Despite their growing bond with their stepmother, old wounds still ached, and there was a lingering tension in the house. One evening, as the children sat by their father's bedside, he spoke softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "My dear children, I know I've asked much of you, but I have one last request." The children leaned in, their hearts heavy with emotion. "I've seen how you've worked so hard to honor your mother's wishes, and I'm proud of you. But now, I ask that you look after your stepmother when I am gone. She needs you more than you think," he said, his eyes soft with the wisdom of the years. The children exchanged uncertain glances. Could they truly look after the woman who had once made them feel like outsiders in their own home? "Father," one of the children spoke, "we've tried, but it's been difficult. She has her own ways, and sometimes we don't understand each other." The father smiled faintly, his gaze steady. "Sometimes, the greatest act of love is simply being there, even when you don't understand. She is a part of your family now, and you are hers. It may take time, but you will learn to love each other in ways you never imagined." The children nodded, knowing this was the last request they could not refuse. Soon after, their father passed away, leaving behind a home filled with grief. But true to their word, the children took on the responsibility of caring for their stepmother. At first, it was awkward, there were moments of silence and tension, but over time, they started to see her in a different light. One day, the children discovered a box of old letters and trinkets hidden in their father's study. As they sifted through it, they found letters between their mother and stepmother, written long before they were born. It seemed the two women had shared an incredible bond, one filled with friendship and understanding. The stepmother had, in fact, been a pillar of support for their mother through many hardships. When they confronted their stepmother with the letters, her eyes filled with tears. "I never wanted you to know of the past," she confessed. "But your mother and I, we shared more than just a marriage to your father. We shared dreams, fears, and hopes. I loved her dearly, and I know she would want me to love you as my own children." With that revelation, the final barrier between the children and their stepmother began to dissolve. They understood, then, that their mother had not just wished them to care for their stepmother out of obligation, but out of a shared history of love and sacrifice. The children, now fully embracing their stepmother as family, continued to care for the farm together. The house, once filled with tension, was now filled with laughter, memories, and a deep understanding that family was not just a bond of blood, but a bond forged through time, patience, and love. The legacy of their parents, both the first and the second, had become something stronger than they ever imagined. It was a legacy of unity, of finding peace even in the face of conflict, and of honoring both the past and the future, hand in hand. The seasons changed, and the farm slowly flourished again, though the shadows of the past were never far from their thoughts. The children and their stepmother worked side by side, repairing fences, planting crops, and mending the heart of the family. They found themselves laughing more often than they had in years, sharing stories late into the night by the warmth of the hearth. But life, as it often does, presented new challenges. One spring, a neighboring farm was sold, and a new family moved into the area. The new owner, a man named Victor, had heard rumors of the family's estate and had his eyes set on acquiring it for himself. He came with offers of land, money, and promises of a prosperous future, but his intentions were not as innocent as they seemed. One day, Victor visited the family's farm with an offer too tempting for any ordinary farmer to refuse. He promised that he would buy their land for an amount that could set them up for the rest of their lives, enough money to live in comfort, to travel, to start anew. The stepmother, though cautious, was intrigued by the offer. The children, now grown and seasoned by years of hard work, were wary. They knew that selling the land would not only change their lives, but it would also sever the connection to the legacy of their parents. It was the last thing that held them to their mother and father. "You should consider it," Victor suggested one afternoon, as he spoke with the children and their stepmother. "This farm is old, worn down. You've worked hard, but there's a life beyond this soil. I'm offering a future, a fresh start. Think of it as a gift to yourselves, a reward for all you've been through." But the children exchanged uneasy glances. They couldn't help but feel that something was wrong. "And what happens to the land?" one of the children asked. Victor smiled slyly. "The land will be mine, of course. But you'll be free to do as you wish, just as you deserve." The stepmother, sensing the hesitation in their voices, spoke up. "I don't know, Victor. This land holds memories for us, our family's history. It's more than just property." Victor's expression darkened for a moment before he quickly masked it with charm. "You're free to make your decision. But remember, opportunities like this don't come often." That night, as the family gathered together to discuss the offer, tension hung thick in the air. The children felt the weight of their mother's wishes and their father's final words about caring for one another. Could they truly leave it all behind? The stepmother, feeling torn, spoke softly. I think your father would have wanted you to live without fear of the future. Maybe this is the right time to let go, to move forward. But the children remained unconvinced. They couldn't ignore the feeling in their hearts that this offer wasn't just about their well-being. Something didn't sit right. The following day, they decided to visit a local elder who had known both their parents, someone they trusted for wisdom. The elder, a wise woman with silver hair and a knowing gaze, listened carefully to their concerns. This land has a soul of its own. If you sell it, you may lose more than just the soil beneath your feet. The truth is, there's power in this place. Your family's bond, your mother's love, it all lives here. If you sell it to the wrong person, that power could be lost forever. The children, listening intently, felt a sense of realization. They knew they could not let go of their roots, not without understanding the consequences. They also saw, perhaps for the first time, that their mother's words about family and love were not just about forgiveness, they were about preserving what was sacred. The next morning, they confronted Victor. With firm voices and steady hearts, they declined his offer. This farm stays with us, they said, their voices united. Victor, his smile now gone, stepped back. You'll regret this, he muttered, but there was no conviction behind his words. He realized that they had seen through his true intentions. Over time, the family rebuilt their bond, not just with each other, but with the land itself. They worked harder than ever, but they knew they were doing it for something greater than wealth. They were doing it to honor their past and protect their future. The stepmother, finally at peace, understood that the family had grown stronger, not just because of their shared history, but because of the challenges they had faced together. She had become a true mother to them, and they had become her children, united in a way that no outside force could ever break. And so, the family lived on, in the same house that had witnessed generations of love, loss, and reconciliation. They knew that no matter what the future held, they had each other, and that was worth more than any offer, no matter how tempting.